Week 2 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few players I look to buy and trade for. This week, the first player, Nico Collins of the Houston Texans. Nico Collins, he got shut down in week 1. 3 catches, 25 yards. But we know he's going to get things going. We know there's the number one option in this offense for this Houston Texan team. In week 1, they just couldn't get it going at the Los Angeles Rams, even though I thought it was a matchup he could exploit. So week 2, a better matchup versus Tampa Bay. It's going to be the home opener for this Houston Texan team. And Nico Collins, we know he's a great talent. We know him and C.J. Stroud have been locked in over the last couple seasons since Stroud got drafted to this Houston Texan team. So right now, after coming off a bad week, I would send some offers out for Nico Collins because this possibly could be the worst game he has all season long in week 1. And we know he's a great talent, and he was a first-round pick in many fantasy leagues for a reason. So like I said, after one bad game, a very bad game, no doubt about it, I think you could go out there and try to get him in a buy low type of deal. Is Nico Collins this week? I don't know if the fantasy owner would budge, but definitely a great buy low option this week. The next player, another receiver, Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins. So that Dolphin offense, they look lost. One of the worst offensive lines in the league, they look like. And we saw Tyreek Hill, he was already frustrated on the bench early in that game, calling for the football and just not happy with the way things were going for this Miami Dolphin team. Wouldn't be surprised if this Dolphin team's out of it mid-season and Tyreek Hill, he gets traded to a contender, and that's where really his fantasy value could take off once again. So week 1, like I said, only 4 catches, 40 yards in that blowout loss at the Indianapolis Colts for Tyreek Hill. So week 2, pretty good matchup versus New England, a team he's had a great track record against in his NFL career is Tyreek Hill. So Hill, we know he's a great route runner. We know he's got the speed to burn a secondary. We know last season was a down year, a lot of off-the-field stuff, and just all the injuries on the field cost, obviously, this Dolphin team a lot of ball games, win 2 or win out. But Tyreek Hill, with a down last season and a down week 1, I think it's a solid buy low option this week. Next play is Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So a lot of early pick wide receivers. Thomas was a second rounder and even a back-end first rounder in most fantasy leagues. I know he found the end zone in week 1. He had the 1 carry on the jet sweep for a 9-yard touchdown and only 1 catch. He did have 7 targets on 11 yards. So a down game for Brian Thomas, no doubt about it. Week 2, good matchup on paper at Cincinnati where their defense can't stop anyone. And we know, though, to keep up with their offense, we know Jacksonville's got to put points on the board. So Brian Thomas, there a performance where he didn't do anything and the touchdown really salvaged his day for Brian Thomas Jr. He's a buy low option. 7 targets, like I said, and only to catch the football once is very underwhelming. This week it's a matchup at Cincinnati where Cincinnati's going to put points on the board. And if they want to keep up and put points on the board, Brian Thomas is going to have to be utilized way better. Next play is another receiver, Davante Adams of the Los Angeles Rams. So his debut, nothing special with this Ram team, obviously in week 1, 4 catches, 51 yards and 8 targets. I know it was a tough matchup versus a good defense in the Houston Texans. Week 2, not a great matchup as well with Tennessee, where their defense shows they could go out there, make stops and make plays. But Davante Adams, he still has to learn this McVay playbook. We know Puka Nacua, he did his thing. Obviously, he had the big game, 10 catches, 130 yards in that one, getting a bunch of targets, even though he left the game a couple times after he got busted open in that one. Taking a blow to the head was Puka Nacua. But Davante Adams, he's a veteran. He'll adjust. Matthew Stafford, a veteran. Sean McVay, an offensive genius. So after one bad week for Davante Adams with his new team, and we know he got paid big money, he's going to be a big part of this roster. Definitely a player to go out there and buy this week. The next player, Omarion Hampton of Los Angeles Chargers. And Hampton, I thought he showed some flashes of what his capabilities could be in the backfield. In week 1, it was just a down game for the rookie. 15 carries, 48 rush yards, 2 catches, 13 yards, and 2 targets. I know Najee Harris, a lot of people worried about, but Najee didn't get much work at all. A carry, 5 yards, and a catch, 5 yards. So this backfield, I think, is Hampton. Harris, he missed a majority of training camp, and with the firework injury, it really did him in, we see, for Harris. And the thing with Hampton as well, he was a first-round pick, and he's not going to ride the pine for this Los Angeles Chargers team. So week 2, better matchup at the Vegas Raiders. They can't stop anyone defensively. That's a Monday night game. And week 1 was just a tough matchup as well versus the Chiefs, one of the better defenses in the league. So Hampton, definitely a nice buy this week. The next play, another rookie running back, Ashton Jeanty of the Las Vegas Raiders. So Jeanty, the touchdown salvaged his day as well, but he only averaged 2 yards a carry in week 1 in New England. I know it was wet grass reigning majority of the game. 19 carries, 38 yards, a touchdown, 2 catches, 2 yards. But Ashton Jeanty, we know he's a stud. We know he's one of the better running back prospects to come out in the last decade, where he rushed for 2,600 yards the last season, which obviously is unheard of. So week 2, it's definitely a tough matchup versus the Chargers. But like I said, I don't expect him to average 2 yards per carry. And if he didn't have that touchdown, it would have really been a lousy ball game in week 1 for Ashton Jeanty. So owners might be down on him as well after he struggled in week 1. And he's definitely a running back to go out there and buy this week. And the final play is another running back to go out there and buy. And it's Kenneth Walker of the Seattle Seahawks. So Kenneth Walker, he only had 10 carries, 20 yards in week 1 with 3 catches for 4 yards in that ball game. And a tough loss versus the 49ers coming to town. And I know Zach Charbonnet, he got the good work in that one where he led the backfield in carries, but Walker had the touches overall, so pretty much it was a 50-50 split. And Charbonnet got goal line as well, where he had 12 carries, 47 yards, and found the end zone. So very talented back is Charbonnet, no doubt about it. But I think Kenneth Walker is more of the home run hitter and more upside, in my opinion, Kenneth Walker has, where Zach Charbonnet is more in between the tackles and that physical big running back. So Kenneth Walker, after a ball game where he didn't do much, obviously, in that one versus a good San Francisco 49er defense. Week 2, it's not a great matchup at Pittsburgh, but we saw Breece Hall and Braylon Allen have good games versus Pittsburgh defense, even though I believe they're one of the better defenses in the league. So I think Kenneth Walker could bounce back. And after pretty much a no-show performance in week 1, he's a good buy, low option this week. So that's a few players I look to buy and trade for week 2 of the fantasy football season.